Hey there, everybody. Yeah, it's your good pal Dustin back with another episode of Turn It Around. As always, I hope everybody had a wonderful and blessed Sunday. I hope you got to spend time with God in whatever way that looks like for you, whether it's going to church, reading your Bible, prayer, singing along to Christian music, or taking in YouTube and or TikTok Christian content. In whatever way you spend time with God on Sunday, I hope you got to do it today. I hope you get to do it throughout the week, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed week ahead. And as always, if you do like what I'm doing, if you do like my videos, even if it's just my shorts with my daily verses, and you want to help get my videos out to more people, please do interact with the videos, like, share, comment if you want, and subscribe if you haven't already. That helps with the algorithms of these sites I am posting to, and hopefully, if enough people like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, hopefully YouTube and TikTok will put my videos out to more people so more people can get words and messages of hope and love. So, we are continuing my study on God in media, and we are going to be, this next movie we're going to be doing is Joseph, King of Dreams. But today I'm going to tell you, in my own words, the story of Joseph, and next week we'll go over the movie and a couple of the songs from the movie that I think are good, important, have good messaging, or however you want to say it. I feel like Joseph's story isn't as well known as like Moses, for example. Not to say that that nobody knows, like people might know the story, but they don't know the story, if that makes sense. Joseph is just not as well known of a story, I think, and so that is why today I'm going to tell the story in my own words, because it spans, what did I say, 8 full chapters, and if I would, and I don't think any of you want to just sit there and listen to me read. I don't have a reading voice. I don't have one of those voices where you can just listen and or fall asleep to. I don't have one of those voices. I have a nasally voice. Anyway, but so that is how this one is going to go. So all that being said, let's get started. So the story of Joseph. Joseph, like I said, I don't think it's as common. I don't think it's told as much as like a David, a Moses, obviously Jesus. So I am going to tell Joseph's story in my own words and summary, because again, like I said, it spans 8 full chapters in Genesis. Starting in Genesis 37 or 38, if I remember correctly. So, anyway, so Joseph, he was born the youngest son of Jacob in Jacob's old age. The Bible, because I did look, I don't remember it saying how old Jacob was, but we all know that in the Old Testament, a lot of the important people lived hundreds of years according to the Bible. Now, whether you think that is literal or figurative, that's not for me to say. I take it literally, so I think Jacob might have been hundreds of years old when Joseph was born. And so you could consider Joseph to be kind of a miracle. And as we all know, the baby of the family is usually the one that is favored, that is doted on, so to speak. Joseph was Jacob's favored son, and Joseph was basically given everything he wanted. And Jacob even gifted him an ornate robe, or a coat of many colors, as it is sometimes described as. I picture, you know, in like movies, anime, TV shows, I picture a king with their fancy robe, has all these nice gold embroideries, maybe some fur on the collar. That's what I picture. Doesn't really describe the coat is other than just to say an ornate robe. So that's what I imagine. So that is the beginning of Joseph's story, just kind of saying who he is, saying that he is Jacob's favored son. And that leads to his brother's jealousy. And jealousy gets Joseph sold into slavery. Being the favored son, Joseph's older brothers grew jealous of him. He was being given everything. He was given an ornate robe. He was given, everything. Like, he was basically, I feel like the way it was kind of described, it's almost like Joseph unintentionally maybe lorded his favored status over his brothers. Again, it might have been unintentional. Sometimes that happens. But they especially grew angry and jealous after Joseph told them of some dreams he had where his brothers were bowing to him as though he actually was over them, like he lorded over them in some way. Now, I don't know about you. That'd probably make me a little angry too. Make me a little jealous. Make me a little hot under the collar, as they say. And that is what happened with Joseph's brothers. And I actually have the experience of this. If you didn't know, which you probably don't because I've never said it, I am the baby of my family. I am the youngest. I am my mother's only child. I have two half brothers on my father's side. And as again is usually the case, being the baby, I was doted on. I was the favorite. Put quotes around that. And one of my brothers did not like it. And he kind of pulled a Joseph's brothers on me. And if he watches my videos, which I hope he does, I don't know if he does, but if he does and he sees this, now we can laugh about it. It was silly. It wasn't like he was tried to hurt me, because he was young at the time too. I think he might have been just entering high school when I was a baby. I'm not sure. But he kind of pulled a Joseph's brothers on me. Joseph's brothers, because of their jealousy and their anger, they at first plotted to kill Joseph. My brother didn't do that. But one of the brothers, Reuben, convinced the others to just strip him and throw him in a cistern. And I think a cistern is either a jug or a barrel that is usually filled with water for drinking, I would assume. And so that's what they did. Joseph was sent to check on them by Jacob, and when he found them, they stripped him and they threw him in a cistern that did not have any water in it, but threw him in a cistern, locked him in there. Reuben goes off. He had planned to get Joseph out so he could take him home. The other brothers that were not Reuben that wasn't enough for them. While they were eating their meal, because they were tending their flocks, so they were out in fields at the time, while they were eating their dinner, a caravan came along and they sold Joseph off as a slave for some silver. Now, part where my brother kind of pulled a Joseph's Brothers on me is the throwing in a cistern. He didn't throw me in a cistern, but he did drop me into a toy box. Fortunately, the toy box was only filled with stuffed animals, so I wasn't hurt. But yeah, I mean, it's not a 1-to-1, obviously, but it's kind of similar. Like, I even think my mom told me that he had said something about like he was going to mail me off somewhere. I can't remember. That might have just been something that we, as I grew older, we just kind of joked about. I'm not positive on that, but I laugh about it now because it was, it's sibling rivalry thing. I had become the favorite. He was the original baby, so he was the one doted on. I came along, then that doting turned to me, and he didn't like it. And I don't hold it against him. I love my brother. I forgive him for it. Like I said, I wasn't hurt, so it's all water under the bridge. But that is where my brother was kind of like Joseph's brothers. Anyway, so Joseph sold off as a slave. Joseph, in the caravan, taken to Egypt. He was bought by Potiphar, the Pharaoh's captain of the guard. And then the other brothers, Reuben came back, upset with the brothers, didn't know what to do. They soaked Joseph's ornate robe in goat's blood and told Jacob Joseph had been slain by wild animals, ripped apart, whatever words you want to use. So Jacob thinks Joseph's dead. Jacob, depressed, sad, mourning, tore his clothes, wore sackcloth, and mourned for weeks about his baby boy. But Jacob's baby boy was fine, actually. God was with Joseph, even in his slavery. Joseph, everything he did, God had go right. So much so, God even blessed Potiphar's entire household. And so Potiphar's household and Joseph thrived. And it was so to the point Joseph was doing so well, Potiphar put Joseph in charge of everything he owned, basically making Joseph his manager. So he didn't have to do all the mundane things. He could focus on more important things or whatever. Fortunately, or depending on who you tell the story, fortunately, Joseph was handsome. He was well built. He's a handsome young man. I assume when the Bible says well built, I'm thinking, not average. I'd say, lean, muscular. Kind of the ripped that a lot of people want to be. And he was so handsome and so built that Potiphar's wife took notice of Joseph and attempted to get Joseph in bed with her for bow chicka wow wow, as me and my best friend like to say when we are talking about that particular subject, because it makes us laugh. So Joseph, of course, he refused every time, but the last time as he got away, he left his cloak in Potiphar's wife's hands. In the movie, it shows he doesn't have a cloak, but it shows Potiphar's wife holding on to Joseph's clothes and ripping it as Joseph runs away from her very aggressive um, seduction, we'll say. Obviously, finding this out would be a scandal. And so, to avoid that, Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of attempted assault. I think you can guess what kind of assault. And this accusation landed Joseph in prison. Joseph's story is a story of love, a story of jealousy, and a story of what can happen when those in power work against you on this earth. But the wonderful and beautiful thing for Joseph is Joseph had an even greater power behind him in God. And God had blessed Joseph with an uncanny ability to interpret dreams. While Joseph was in prison, cupbearer and the royal baker were thrown in with Joseph, and they told Joseph of dreams they had. I believe for the baker, if I remember right, his dream was after 3 days, Pharaoh would forgive him and take him back. And I believe for the cupbearer, I think his dream was Pharaoh was going to have him executed, if I remember correctly. So Joseph told that, all came true, exactly the way he said. And eventually, Pharaoh himself has a dream that includes 7 healthy, fat, wonderful cows, and then 7 scrawny, pathetic cows, and bundles of abundant grain, and then bundles of worthless grain. And the baker, remembering Joseph, told Pharaoh of Joseph's talents, and Pharaoh sent for him. Joseph told the Pharaoh, "This is what God is trying to tell you." And it was foretelling of 7 years of coming abundance, because it was 7 cows and 7 bundles of wheat, and then followed by 7 years of famine. This isn't good. You know, when you have abundance, you want to live abundantly. You want to basically be wasteful almost. And doing that, once the famine comes, you aren't going to have enough to survive. And so Joseph also told Pharaoh how God was telling him to prepare to make sure that doesn't happen, and that was by stockpiling during the years of abundance. I can't remember exactly how much from each harvest. I want to say it was like a third, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And since Joseph had the Spirit of God, was full of God's Spirit, told Pharaoh all these things, Pharaoh believed him. I couldn't tell you why. Just did. Maybe it was the way Joseph told it. Maybe it was the look in his eyes. Whatever. That doesn't matter. But because Pharaoh felt that Joseph was full of God's Spirit, Pharaoh put him in charge of the stockpiling. Basically put him in charge of all of Egypt's food and infrastructure. And made him his second in command, for lack of a better term. Pharaoh was the only person above Joseph. Now the same 7 years of famine comes. It hits Jacob's family hard. They have no food, but Jacob hears that there is grain, food in Egypt, and so he sent his sons to get some. The first trip, the new youngest Benjamin stayed behind. The other brothers went. Joseph accused them of being spies because he was still angry about what they had done to him. And he eventually sends them off, says, "Leave one of you here. Rest of you go back. Bring the youngest back with you. And then I will return the brother that stays behind. This will prove that you are not spies and you are just who you appear to be." And so they do it. They take the grain back to their home, and then they come back bringing Benjamin, who had become the new baby because Joseph was thought to be dead. Joseph, this is how I am interpreting it. This is how I am saying it. Joseph, wanting to test his brothers to see if they had any remorse for what they had done to him, or had changed, he had his steward place his fancy silver cup, that I would assume was worth a lot of money, in Benjamin's sack that he had filled with grain. He was going to give the brothers a bunch of grain, sacks of grain. He put the silver cup in Benjamin's sack. It was found, and Joseph said he would keep Benjamin as a slave, but the other brothers pleaded for Joseph to take one of them instead. They remembered their father's pain, their father's depression, their father's like almost like his life, the way it sounds is like his life was almost like he almost died from heartbreak because he thought Joseph was dead. And they could not bear to see their father like that again if they didn't bring Benjamin back. Joseph then reveals himself to his brothers, forgives them for what they had done, telling them that what you meant for evil, God has used for good, and I have thrived. And because I have thrived and you are my brothers and my family, he invites them and their families to live with him in Egypt. And of course, that includes Joseph's father, Jacob. Joseph's story goes from being loved, being doted on, being the favorite, to being sold into slavery, becoming the lowest of the low in the society at that time, to thriving in his master's house to the point where he was basically made manager of the entire house and everything in it, to being falsely accused of assault and thrown in prison, to telling Pharaoh about his dreams and becoming Pharaoh's second in command to make sure that Egypt could survive the 7 years of famine. And then finally, it is a story of forgiveness and back to love. Joseph forgives his brothers, and they come to live with him in Egypt. And they are all reunited again. If Joseph can forgive his brothers for selling him off into slavery, we can forgive the minor transgressions people in our lives do against us. I don't think any of us have to worry about people we know selling us into any kind of slavery. But people still do things that hurt us, cause us pain, causes us to feel betrayal. And though it might not be something that you can do immediately. Eventually, we have to realize that those little things that to us seem like big things at the time, we need to realize that they are just little things, and that we can and should forgive. That is what God calls us to do. Forgive those who trespass against us. Because God forgave us through Jesus' sacrifice for our trespasses against Him. Like I said, next week we'll go over the movie. I'll probably do similar to like I did last week, except this time I'm going to try to actually have the songs in the video. And I'm going to talk, pause and talk about the songs as the song is going. And like I did last week, I will also leave links to those songs next week in the description so that you can actually watch them without me yapping over it. Hopefully, it goes fine. I don't have to fight too hard with YouTube over it, but we'll see. But again, if my video comes out later than usual next week, that is why. So, as always, I thank you all for being here. I can never express how humbled and grateful I am to all of you, even if it's just my shorts you enjoy watching, my daily verses. I thank you all for your time and your support. And as always, my friends, remember that I love you, God loves you, and please remember to love yourselves and those around you. Till next time, my friends, bye!